Hi, I'm Nathan Johnston, and in this video we're going to look at the dictionary in iecTeso. The dictionary is where all variables used in a resource are defined. There's a book symbol on the toolbar which can be used to access it, or alternatively you can select from the project menu and select variables. You then need to expand the tree under the resource and select variables. If we had defined some variable groups, we could have selected them there also. There are various parameters associated with each variable. To add a new variable, we simply double click on the ... which appears at the bottom of the dictionary list. Variables have various parameters associated with them. First of all, we need to define a name. In this case, I will call it digital input 1. An alias is an abbreviation that will appear in some of the languages. I usually just leave this blank. You then need to select the variable type. There is a large list of different variable types available. The most basic variable type is Boolean, which has two possible values, true or false. There are then various analog variable types. Short integers, unsigned short integers, which are 8-bit values. Integers and unsigned integers, which are 16-bit values. Double integers and unsigned double integers, which are 32-bit signed and unsigned. Long integers and unsigned long integers, which are 64-bit numbers. Reals and long reals, which are 32-bit and 64-bit floating point values. There are also other analog variables, which are just variants of what we previously discussed. There are also time variables used for time-based operations, such as timer blocks. Time variables have a value from 1 millisecond up to 1 millisecond short of 24 hours. They need to be entered in a special syntax, that is, starts with t hash and then a value followed by a unit. The units can be hours, minutes, seconds, or milliseconds. And there's some examples here of 1 hour and 450 milliseconds, 1 hour, 3 minutes, or 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, and 999 milliseconds. String variables are used for text messages. When you enter them, there's a special syntax that must be used, using commas around them. You also need to define the length of a string. Maximum length cannot exceed 255 bytes. For my digital input variable I've just created, I'm going to leave it type bool. This field here is if I was creating a string, it would be the length of the string. Initial values are used for setting initial value when the controller is powered on. Dimensions are linked with arrays, which we will cover later. Groups allow us to link the variable to a variable group. At the moment, we have not defined any. There are three possible attributes: free, read, and write. Read variables can only be read by the program and can't be written to. Write variables can only be written to and can't be read. Free variables can be read from and written to. Generally, you would always use the free attribute. However, inputs linked to I/O boards must be set to read. Scope allows the scope of the variable to be defined to be a global variable that can be accessed from all programs, or a local variable which allows the variable only to be accessed within a particular program. Because we have not created any programs at this stage, the only option available is global. There are three possible directions. input, output, and internal. Usually all variables are internal unless they are being linked to an input board, in which case they need to be defined as input, or an output board means they need to be configured to output. Retained variables mean they retain their value across a power cycle of the controller. In other words, if you set a value, then you turn the power of the controller off. When you turn it on again, it will keep the value from before it was turned off. The address field is not used with PC3, however with PC1 controllers it is used for defining a Modbus slave address to the variable. You can also define a comment for the variable. There is also another view in the dictionary, known as grid mode. This allows variables to be entered directly into the grid rather than popping up the window. I prefer using this view as it allows you to easily change multiple parameters between variables quickly. In this case here, I may need to change it to a double integer, and we can just go down and edit them. If we're in the row mode, we would need to double click on them individually and individually change each parameter, which is a more time-consuming process. I might just create an extra few variables here just to show the entry of different data types. Notice that when we select string, we can enter the string length directly in at the type definition. I was able just to enter the text directly and it would automatically put the comma fields around it for the definition. It should be noted that when you have a retained variable, it cannot be set to initial value as well. You have to choose one or the other. There are also other tabs to the dictionary, however we'll cover these in a later video.